My parents sold my college fund to bail out my felon golden brother, so I disappeared for 10 years. But now, after they found out I am well off, they want my help. I never thought I'd be writing this story, but after everything that's happened in the last few months, I need to get it off my chest. Maybe some of you will understand. Maybe you'll think I'm heartless. Either way, here it is. I 28 male now, but this story starts when I was 18. My parents had two kids, me and my brother Tyler, who's 3 years older. From the day I could form memories, it was crystal clear who the favorite was. Tyler could do no wrong in their eyes, even when he was doing everything wrong. Let me paint you a picture of my childhood. When Tyler got his first car at 16, it was a brand new Honda Civic that Dad co-signed for. When I turned 16, they handed me the keys to Tyler's old beater that he'd already put 80,000 miles on and crashed twice. When Tyler wanted to play football, they bought him all the gear, drove to every game, and had his jersey framed when the season ended. When I made honor roll 3 semesters in a row, Mom said, "That's nice, honey," without looking up from her phone. But the real difference wasn't in what they gave us. It was in what they excused. Tyler started getting in trouble in middle school. Small stuff at first. Skipping class, talking back to teachers, getting suspended. Mom and Dad would march into the principal's office like Tyler was the victim of some grand conspiracy. "He's just spirited," Mom would say. "Boys will be boys," Dad would add. Meanwhile, I got grounded for a week when I forgot to take out the trash. High school was when Tyler really hit his stride with being a complete screw-up. He got caught with weed sophomore year. Not just smoking it, but selling it in the school parking lot to freshmen. Dad hired a lawyer and somehow convinced the school board that Tyler was just helping other kids feel more comfortable in a new environment. The lawyer cost $3,000. Junior year brought the vandalism arrest. Tyler didn't just spray paint the rival school's mascot. He broke into their trophy case and spray painted every single trophy, then took selfies next to his artwork and posted them on Instagram. The school district demanded $8,000 in damages. Dad hired an even better lawyer for $5,000 and somehow got it reduced to community service, which Tyler never completed. But my personal favorite was the incident that almost got him expelled senior year. Tyler threw a party while our parents were visiting my sick grandfather. Not just any party, he charged admission, hired a DJ, and turned our house into a nightclub. The neighbors called the cops after someone drove through their fence trying to park. When the police showed up, they found 3 passed-out minors, a flooded basement from someone breaking the water heater, and Tyler passed out on the roof with no memory of how he got there. The property damage was over $12,000. Dad took out a second mortgage to cover it. Senior year, he barely graduated because he spent more time partying than studying, but somehow my parents still threw him a massive graduation party and bragged to everyone about how proud they were. They rented out the VFW hall and invited 200 people to celebrate Tyler overcoming his challenges. I got a $20 gift card to Barnes & Noble when I graduated with honors. Through all of this, I was grinding. I worked part-time at a grocery store, maintained a 3.8 GPA, and saved every penny for college. See, my grandparents on my mom's side had set up education savings accounts for both Tyler and me when we were little. Nothing huge, but by the time I was 18, mine had grown to about $23,000. Combined with what I'd saved from work and some academic scholarships I'd earned, I could afford to go to a decent state school for computer science. Tyler's education fund? Gone by his sophomore year of high school, spent on lawyers and court fees. But that was fine, according to my parents, because Tyler wasn't college material anyway, and would probably go into business with Dad's construction company. What they didn't mention was that Dad's construction business was barely staying afloat, because Tyler kept costing them contracts. Hard to maintain professional relationships when your son shows up to job sites drunk, starts fights with subcontractors, and steals materials to sell for drug money. Yeah, that last part came out during his second arrest junior year. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about the night that changed everything. It was March of my senior year. I'd just gotten accepted to state with a partial academic scholarship. I was over the moon. Finally, my hard work was paying off. I was going to study computer science, get out of this toxic house, and build something of my own. I came home from my shift at the grocery store around 10 p.m. to find my parents sitting at the kitchen table with Tyler. He looked like hell. Bloodshot eyes, stubble, that particular shade of pale that comes from spending 48 hours in county lockup. This was his third DUI, and this time he'd wrapped his car around a telephone pole. Thank God he didn't kill anyone. But the car was totaled, and his blood alcohol was nearly twice the legal limit. Mom was crying. Dad was pacing. And Tyler was sitting there with this defiant look on his face, like the world owed him something. "We need to talk," Dad said when he saw me. I sat down, still in my grocery store uniform that smelled like the deli counter. "Tyler's in some serious trouble," Dad began. "This third DUI, it's a felony. He's looking at real prison time unless we get him the best lawyer in the county." "Okay," I said, not sure why this involved me. "What does his lawyer cost?" Mom and Dad exchanged a look. That should have been my first warning. $25,000, Dad said quietly. The number hit me like a slap. $25,000. More than my entire college fund. "That's a lot," I managed. "We don't have it," Mom said through tears. "The business is struggling. We've already mortgaged the house twice for Tyler's other legal fees, and, I prompted, though some sick part of me already knew where this was going. Dad cleared his throat. "We need to use your college fund." The room went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I stared at them, waiting for the punchline. The "just kidding." Anything to indicate this was some kind of horrible joke. "My college fund," I repeated slowly. "It's just temporary," Mom rushed to explain. "Once Tyler gets back on his feet, once the business picks up, we'll pay it back with interest. We promise." Tyler finally spoke up. "Come on, little brother. Family's got to stick together, right? Besides, you're smart. You'll figure out another way to pay for school. I'm looking at 5 years in prison if we don't fix this." I looked at this person who shared my DNA, this 21-year-old who had never held a job for more than 3 months, who had cost our family tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees and damaged property, who was sitting there acting like I owed him something. "No," I said. Dad's face darkened. "Excuse me?" I said no. "That money is for my education. I've worked for 4 years saving every penny, maintained perfect grades, earned scholarships. Tyler made his choices. I'm not paying for them. What happened next will be burned into my memory forever." My mother, the woman who raised me, looked me dead in the eye and said, "How can you be so selfish? Your brother needs help." "What about what I need?" I shot back. "What about my future? My dreams?" "You'll figure it out," Dad said dismissively. "You always do. Tyler doesn't have your advantages." "What advantages?" "Being responsible, working hard, following the law." Tyler slammed his fist on the table. "God, you're such a self-righteous little prick. You think you're better than me because you get good grades and work at a grocery store? I think I'm better than you because I don't drive drunk and endanger innocent people," I snapped back. That's when Dad lost it. He got up and jabbed his finger in my face. "That money is in an account with your mother's name on it. We're going to use it whether you like it or not. Tyler is family, and family takes care of family." "What am I then?" I asked quietly. No one answered. The next morning, I went to the bank with Mom. She withdrew every penny of my college fund, $23,416. Money that represented 4 years of my grandparents' love, 4 years of my sacrifice, 4 years of hope for a better future. Gone. Just like that. I asked Mom one more time in the bank parking lot, "Are you sure about this?" She couldn't even look at me. "Tyler needs us right now. You'll understand when you're older." That afternoon, I walked into my guidance counselor's office and withdrew my acceptance to state. I told her there had been a family financial emergency. She was devastated. She'd worked hard to help me get those scholarships. When I got home, I went straight to my room and started packing. I didn't have much. 4 years of working part-time doesn't leave much room for accumulating possessions when you're saving every dollar for college. Tyler was in the living room, playing video games like nothing had happened. "Thanks, bro," he called out, without taking his eyes off the screen. "I'll pay you back, I promise." I didn't respond. At dinner that night, Dad said, "So, what's your plan now for school?" "I'll figure it out," I said, throwing his words back at him. Mom looked uncomfortable. "Maybe you could take a gap year, save up again?" "Sure," I said. "I'll just save up another $25,000 while working at a grocery store for $8.50 an hour. Should only take about 6 years if I don't eat or pay rent." "Don't be dramatic," Dad said. That night, I made a decision that would define the next decade of my life. I was done being the responsible one who got screwed over for being responsible. I was done being the afterthought child. I was done with all of it. I had about $3,200 in my checking account, money I'd been saving for textbooks and dorm room supplies. It wasn't much, but it was enough for a one-way Greyhound ticket to San Francisco and maybe a month of survival if I was careful. I left on a Tuesday morning while everyone was out. Mom was at her book club, Dad was at work, and Tyler was probably sleeping off another hangover. I packed everything that mattered into 2 duffel bags, left my house key on my desk, and walked out of that house forever. I didn't leave a note. I didn't say goodbye. I just disappeared. The first 2 years in San Francisco were the hardest of my life. I couch surfed, stayed in hostels, slept in my car, an $800 Honda with 200,000 miles, when I couldn't afford anything else. That car, by the way, was a special kind of nightmare. The heater only worked when you hit the dashboard in exactly the right spot. The passenger door had to be opened from the outside, and it made a sound like a dying whale every time I started it. But it was mine, which was more than I could say about anything else in my life at that point. I worked every job you can imagine. Dishwasher at a 24-hour diner where the cook taught me more curse words in Spanish than I knew existed in English. Dog walker for tech bros who paid me $50 to walk their designer dogs while they worked from their $4,000 a month apartments. Delivery driver for a restaurant that exclusively served $18 artisanal grilled cheese sandwiches to people too drunk to cook. Sometimes I'd work 2 or 3 jobs at once, just to afford a room in a house with 5 other people. My living situation was a rotating cast of characters that would make a sitcom writer weep with joy. There was Marcus, the aspiring musician who practiced his experimental jazz fusion at 3 a.m. Sarah, the grad student who labeled every single item in the shared fridge with her name and the date, including individual baby carrots. And my personal favorite, Dave, who was convinced he was going to get rich selling custom t-shirts with inspirational quotes he wrote himself. His bestseller? Life is like a taco. You gotta hold it together, or everything falls apart. He sold exactly 1 shirt, to his mom. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom when you're 18. You're young enough to bounce back, and desperate enough to work harder than anyone else. During my lunch breaks and after work, I'd go to the public library and teach myself to code. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, Java, whatever free resources I could find online. I spent every spare moment learning, building little projects, failing, starting over. After about 8 months of this, I got my first tech job, technical support specialist, at a startup that made software for restaurants. It paid $35,000 a year, which felt like winning the lottery after months of making minimum wage. The startup was classic Silicon Valley chaos. 25 people crammed into an office space meant for 10, working 80-hour weeks on energy drinks and the promise of equity that might be worth something someday. The office fridge was perpetually stocked with exactly 3 items: expired yogurt, someone's leftover Thai food that had achieved sentience, and about 47 different varieties of kombucha that nobody actually wanted to drink, but everyone pretended to love. But I loved it. For the first time in my life, I was around people who valued intelligence and hard work over family connections and sob stories. My coworkers didn't care that I grew up in Ohio or that my brother was a mess. They cared that I could fix their server crashes at 2 a.m. and still show up the next morning with ideas for improving the user interface. The CEO, Marcus, had this habit of calling emergency all-hands meetings at random times to discuss paradigm shifts and synergistic opportunities. Most of these meetings could have been emails, but Marcus was 26 and convinced he was the next Steve Jobs. He wore the same black t-shirt every day. He claimed to own 30 identical shirts and insisted that our office needed creative energy, which translated to beanbags instead of chairs and a broken ping-pong table that doubled as our only conference table. I absorbed everything. I learned the business side, the technical side, the customer side. When the company's only developer quit after 6 months, something about Marcus's tendency to change the entire product roadmap every Tuesday. I volunteered to take over his projects, even though I'd never built commercial software before. I worked nights and weekends teaching myself advanced programming concepts, studying the codebase, fixing bugs, and building new features. The CEO, a 26-year-old Stanford dropout named Marcus, noticed my work. After about a year, he pulled me aside and said, "I don't know what your background is, but you're the most driven person I've ever met. How would you feel about leading our entire technical development?" At 20 years old, I became the CTO of a 50-person company. That startup eventually failed. Most do. But by then I had real experience and a network. My next job was at a more established company, building mobile apps for enterprise clients. The pay was better, the equity was better, and I was learning about parts of the tech industry I'd never seen before. But the real opportunity came in 2018, when I was 24. I'd been watching the explosion of remote work tools and noticed something that everyone else seemed to be missing. All these platforms were focused on video calls and messaging, but nobody was solving the real problem of project collaboration for technical teams. I started building a prototype in my spare time, a platform that would integrate code repositories, project management, real-time collaboration, and deployment tools into one seamless experience. It was basically trying to replace 5 different tools that every development team was using separately. The more I worked on it, the more I realized I was onto something big. I quit my job in January 2019 and spent 6 months building the MVP with my savings. When I ran out of money, I freelanced during the day to pay rent and coded at night. I lived on ramen and coffee, slept maybe 4 hours a night, and probably wasn't the best company for anyone during those months. But by July 2019, I had something that worked. I called it DevStream. The first version was rough, but it solved a real problem. I reached out to every developer I'd ever met and asked them to try it. Within a month, I had 200 users. Within 3 months, I had 2,000. By the end of 2019, I had 15,000 users and had processed my first revenue. That's when the venture capital firms started calling. I'll spare you the details of fundraising. It's about as fun as it sounds. But by March 2020, I'd raised $2.5 million in Series A funding. The timing was perfect. COVID hit, remote work exploded, and suddenly every company in the world needed better tools for distributed teams. DevStream went from 15,000 users to 150,000 users in 6 months. By the end of 2020, we were at 500,000 users, and I was hiring employees faster than I could onboard them. By 2021, we were doing $50 million in annual revenue. By 2022, we were profitable, and I was fielding acquisition offers. I didn't sell. DevStream was my baby, the thing I'd built from nothing when I had nothing. Instead, I raised a Series B round that valued the company at $400 million. And me? The kid whose college fund got stolen to bail out his drunk brother? I was worth about $200 million on paper. But here's the thing about success. It doesn't feel like you think it will when you're dreaming about it from the bottom. It's gratifying, sure, but mostly it just feels like more work and more responsibility. I was proud of what I'd built, but I wasn't doing it to prove anything to my family anymore. By that point, they felt like characters from someone else's life story. Which brings me to last month. I was in my office in downtown San Francisco, reviewing quarterly numbers with my CFO, when my assistant knocked on the door. "There's a call for you," she said. "Someone claiming to be your mother." I hadn't spoken to my family in over 9 years. Not a word. They had no idea where I was, what I was doing, or if I was even alive. I'd changed my phone number, moved multiple times, and built my entire adult life from scratch without the minute. "Tell her I'm not available," I said. But the calls kept coming. Every day for a week. Sometimes mom, sometimes dad, once Tyler himself. I ignored them all. Then the Forbes article came out. 30 under 30. The dropout CEO who's revolutionizing remote work. They'd done a whole profile on me and DevStream. Photos, background story, the works. They mentioned that I was from a small town in Ohio, that I'd dropped out of college plans to move to San Francisco, that I'd built a $400 million company from scratch. The story went viral in tech circles. Within 24 hours, it was being shared all over social media. That's how my family found me. The next morning, my assistant informed me that there were 3 people in the lobby claiming to be my family and demanding to see me. I'll be honest. Part of me was curious. It had been 9 years. What did they want? What did they look like now? Had Tyler finally grown up? Had my parents ever wondered if they'd made the right choice? "Send them up," I told her. 5 minutes later, my office door opened and my family walked in. They looked older, obviously. Dad had gone gray and put on weight. Mom had more wrinkles and was wearing clothes that looked like she'd picked them up at Target. And Tyler looked exactly like what he was. A 30-year-old man who'd never had to grow up. Scruffy, out of shape, wearing jeans and a wrinkled button-down that probably came from Mom's last-minute attempt to make him look presentable. They stood there gaping at my office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, expensive furniture, walls covered with awards and patents. This wasn't the life of someone who'd figured it out after having his college fund stolen. This was the life of someone who'd succeeded beyond their wildest imagination. "My God," Mom whispered. "Is this all yours?" "It's my company, yes," I said, not getting up from behind my desk. "What do you want?" Dad cleared his throat. We read the article. We had no idea you were doing so well." "You had no idea I was doing anything," I corrected. "You never bothered to find out." "We tried," Mom said quickly. "After you left, we tried to find you. We filed a missing persons report. We hired a private investigator." "For how long?" Silence. "How long did you look for me?" I pressed. "About 6 months," Dad admitted. "The investigator said you'd probably surface when you were ready, and we couldn't afford to keep paying him." "Right. You couldn't afford it. Needed that money for Tyler's next legal bill, I'm sure." Tyler finally spoke up. "Come on, man. That's not fair. We were worried sick about you." I laughed. Actually laughed. Worried sick? Tyler, you thanked me for giving up my college fund and then played video games. You were worried about your next high, not about me. The room went quiet again. Through the windows, I could see San Francisco bustling below us. People heading to work, building their lives, chasing their dreams. Just like I'd done. We'd like to explain, Mom said softly. Explain what? How you stole my future to bail out your golden child? How you chose his comfort over my dreams? How you never once asked if I was okay with sacrificing my education for his legal fees? We were going to pay you back, Dad protested. When? It's been almost 10 years. Have you paid me back? More silence. How is Tyler doing, by the way? I asked. Did that expensive lawyer work out? Did he turn his life around? Get sober? Find a career? I already knew the answer from their faces. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. I've had some setbacks, but I'm doing better now. I've been clean for 6 months. Congratulations. What about employment? I'm between jobs right now. For how long? About 8 months. So you've been unemployed longer than you've been clean. That's progress, I guess. Mom looked like she was about to cry. We know we made mistakes. We know we hurt you, but you're our son, and we've missed you every single day. Missed me so much that you gave up looking for me after 6 months. We didn't know what else to do, she whispered. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city that had given me everything my family never could. Opportunity, merit-based success, people who valued what you contributed, not who you were related to. Why are you here? I asked without turning around. We want to reconnect, Dad said. We want you back in our lives. We want to be a family again. I turned around and really looked at them. These 3 people who'd shaped my childhood, who'd made me feel worthless and invisible, who'd taught me that love was conditional and families had favorites. What's the financial situation at home? I asked. Dad blinked. What? Your finances. Tyler's unemployed. You're both in your 60s. The construction business is probably struggling. What's your situation? We're managing, Mom said carefully. How's Tyler's housing situation? I pressed. Still living with you? Temporarily, Tyler muttered. How temporarily? 6 months? 2 years? 5 years? It's complicated, Dad said. I nodded. And you saw the Forbes article about me being worth $200 million and thought, finally, our ship has come in. That's not why we're here, Mom said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Isn't it? You didn't wonder about me for 9 years, but a magazine mentions I'm wealthy, and suddenly you need to reconnect. You couldn't afford a private investigator to find your missing son, but you could afford plane tickets to San Francisco. When you discovered your missing son had money, Tyler's temper flared. Some things never change. Look, we get it. You're successful now. You don't need us. But we're still your family. Are we? I asked. Because families don't steal from each other. Families don't abandon each other. Families don't choose favorites and leave the other kid to figure it out alone. We never abandoned you, Mom protested. You took away my future for Tyler's convenience. What would you call that? Dad stepped forward. We made a mistake. We know that now. But Tyler was looking at prison time, and I was looking at a lost education. But only one of those things mattered to you. We thought you'd bounce back, Dad said desperately. You were always so capable, so smart. We knew you'd be fine. I was fine. No thanks to you. But being fine and being family are 2 different things. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic below. Finally, Mom played her last card. We love you. We've always loved you. We know we made mistakes, but you're our son. Doesn't that count for something? I studied her face, looking for sincerity, for real remorse, for any indication that this was about more than money. What I saw was desperation. How much do you need? I asked quietly. All 3 of them looked at each other. I'm sorry, Dad said. You didn't come here just to reconnect. You came here because you need money. Tyler's probably racked up more legal bills, or medical bills, or gambling debts. Your retirement savings are gone. The house is mortgaged. You're looking at bankruptcy or worse. So how much do you need? The silence stretched on forever. Tyler broke first. Things have been rough since Dad's accident. What accident? He fell off a roof last year, Mom explained. Hurt his back. He can't work construction anymore. Workers' comp isn't covering everything, and the medical bills. How much? I repeated. $80,000, Dad whispered. Between the medical debt and what we owe on the house and Tyler's legal fees from his last arrest. His last arrest? I thought he was clean. He is clean, Tyler said defensively. The arrest was from before. Something finally caught up with me. I walked back to my desk and sat down. These 3 people, looking at me with hope and desperation, waiting for me to solve their problems with my checkbook. Do you know what $80,000 is to me now? I asked. They shook their heads. It's about 6 hours of DevStream's revenue. It's what I spend on coffee for the office in 4 months. It's less than I paid for the watch I'm wearing. Their eyes lit up with hope. But do you know what $25,000 was to me when I was 18? I continued. The hope started to fade. It was everything. It was my future. It was 4 years of my grandparents' love and sacrifice. It was my chance to become something more than the invisible kid from Ohio. And you gave it away without a second thought. We were desperate, Mom pleaded. So was I. But nobody cared about my desperation. I opened my laptop and pulled up DevStream's bank accounts. Numbers that would make them dizzy. Money I'd earned by working 80-hour weeks, sleeping on friends' couches, teaching myself skills that school never could have given me anyway. I could write you a check right now that would solve all your problems, I said. I could pay off your house, Tyler's legal bills, Dad's medical debt, and give you enough left over to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. They held their breath. But I'm not going to. Tyler exploded first. Are you fucking kidding me? We're your family. No, Tyler. Families support each other. Families believe in each other. Families don't steal from each other to bail out the family screw-up for the 12th time. That was 10 years ago, he shouted. And what have you done in those 10 years? What have you built? What have you contributed? What have you learned from all those expensive lessons my college fund paid for? He had no answer. I turned to my parents. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not that you took my money. Money can be replaced. It's that you never believed in me. You were so sure Tyler was worth investing in, and I was just the responsible one who'd figure it out, that you never stopped to consider what I might become if given the chance. We believe in you now, Mom said through tears. Now that it benefits you to believe in me. Now that I can write checks. But where was that belief when I was 17 and working 2 jobs to save for college? Where was it when I was getting straight A's while Tyler was getting arrested? Dad tried one more time. We can't change the past, but we can be a family going forward. I shook my head. No, we can't. Because you haven't learned anything. You're not here because you're proud of what I've accomplished, or because you've realized you were wrong. You're here because you need something from me. What would it take? Mom asked desperately. What would we have to do to earn your forgiveness? I thought about it for a long moment. Go back in time and choose differently. Believe in me when it mattered. Support my dreams instead of destroying them. Love me for who I was, not for what I could do for Tyler. We can't do that, she whispered. No, you can't. Just like I can't pretend that the last 10 years of my life happened because you believed in me instead of in spite of your lack of belief. I walked to my office door and opened it. I think we're done here. Tyler made one last desperate play. You know what? Maybe it's better this way. Maybe you're right to cut us out. You've turned into exactly the kind of selfish, cold person who puts money over family. I'm glad we took your college fund. You would have just turned into an asshole anyway. I smiled. Actually smiled. Tyler, I had nothing when you took that money. I slept in my car. I lived on ramen noodles. I worked 3 jobs just to afford a shared bedroom with 4 strangers. And I was still happier than I ever was living in that house with you. Because you got lucky with some stupid app. No, because I got away from people who made me feel worthless. Success was just a bonus. They filed out slowly. Mom looked back once from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I hope someday you can forgive us, she said. I already have, I told her. But forgiveness doesn't mean trust, and it doesn't mean money. After they left, I stood at my window for a long time, watching the city below. My assistant knocked and came in. How did it go? She asked gently. She'd worked for me for 2 years and had never seen me rattled by anything. Like I expected, I said. They needed money, not a relationship. I'm sorry. I turned back to my desk, to the company I'd built, to the life I'd created from nothing. Don't be, I said. I'm not. That was 3 weeks ago. They've tried calling a few more times, but I haven't answered. Tyler sent a long email that I deleted without reading. Mom tried reaching out through DevStream's customer service, which was honestly impressive in its desperation. Update. It's been 2 months since I posted this, and wow, I didn't expect it to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who shared their own family stories. It helped me realize I'm not the only one who's been through something like this. A few people asked for an update, so here's what's happened. Tyler got arrested again last month. Another DUI, plus possession charges. Apparently he's been using again for months, not just 6 like he claimed. Mom called DevStream's main line trying to reach me, begging me to help with another lawyer. I didn't take the call. Dad's medical bills have gotten worse. My cousin, Mom's nephew, reached out on Facebook to let me know Dad might lose the house. He wasn't asking for money, just thought I should know. I appreciated the heads up, but my answer is still no. The hardest part is that some people in my extended family think I'm heartless. My aunt posted something on Facebook about how blood is thicker than water, and family should always come first. A few cousins have unfriended me on social media. But here's what I've realized. The people who are angry at me for not helping are the same people who never helped me when I needed it. They all knew how my family treated me growing up. They all watched Tyler get chance after chance while I was ignored. None of them spoke up then, and none of them offered to help when I was sleeping in my car at 18. It's easy to be generous with other people's money and other people's forgiveness. The good news is that cutting ties completely has been liberating. I changed my phone number, moved to a new apartment, and made it clear to anyone who asks that I'm done with that chapter of my life.